The night sky over the countryside exploded with light. Jiwoo stopped his old bicycle and stared upward, his breath catching in his throat. Something was falling from the stars, burning bright orange and trailing smoke like a wounded dragon. It wasn't a normal meteor. The object moved too deliberately, changing direction as it fell, as if something inside was fighting to control it. The burning thing crashed into the forest about 2 kilometers away. The impact shook the ground beneath Jiwoo's feet. Trees snapped like twigs. A column of smoke rose into the dark sky, lit from below by dancing flames. Jiwoo knew he should go home. He had work early tomorrow at Juan's repair shop, and his small apartment waited for him with its cold floor and empty refrigerator. But something pulled at him, a feeling he couldn't explain. Someone might need help. He pedaled his bicycle off the main road and onto the dirt path leading into the forest. The closer he got, the stranger everything felt. The air tasted metallic, like licking a battery. The trees around the crash site were bent away from the impact point, but they weren't just broken. They looked melted, their bark smooth and glassy. Jiwoo abandoned his bicycle and walked the last 100 meters. His hands shook. This was probably stupid. This was definitely stupid. But he kept moving forward. The crashed object sat in a crater of scorched earth. It was no aircraft Jiwoo had ever seen. The hull was smooth and dark, covered in symbols that hurt his eyes when he looked at them too long. Parts of it were still glowing red-hot. Pieces of debris littered the ground, some floating slightly as if gravity had forgotten them. Steam hissed from cracks in the hull. Through the largest crack, Jiwoo saw movement. Someone was inside. "Hello?" Jiwoo called out in Korean. "Are you okay? Can you hear me?" A groan answered him, weak and pained. Jiwoo's heart raced. He looked around for something to pry the crack wider. A fallen branch would have to do. He wedged it into the gap and pushed with all his strength. The metal groaned and bent, opening just enough for Jiwoo to squeeze through. Inside the craft, strange lights flickered and died. The air was thick with smoke that smelled like burned copper. Jiwoo covered his mouth with his sleeve and pushed deeper into the wreckage. He found the pilot slumped against what looked like a control panel. At first glance, the figure appeared to be an old man, perhaps 70 years old, with gray hair and weathered skin. But something was off. The man's skin had a faint silvery sheen in the dying light. His eyes, half closed in pain, were too large and entirely black with no visible white. The old man's leg was trapped under a collapsed section of the hull. Blood seeped from a cut on his forehead. But the blood was darker than it should be, almost purple. "I'm going to help you," Jiwoo said, not sure if the man could understand. He grabbed the metal pinning the stranger's leg and pulled. It was impossibly heavy, but fear and adrenaline gave Jiwoo strength he didn't know he had. The metal shifted. The old man cried out in pain, but managed to pull his leg free. Jiwoo got his shoulder under the stranger's arm and helped him stand. The man was lighter than expected, despite being nearly the same height as Jiwoo. They stumbled toward the crack in the hull. Behind them, something began to whine. The sound grew higher and higher in pitch, setting Jiwoo's teeth on edge. "We need to move," Jiwoo said, half dragging the old man toward the exit. "Now." They squeezed through the crack and fell onto the scorched earth outside. Jiwoo pulled the stranger away from the craft, his muscles screaming in protest. 20 meters, 30, 40, the ship exploded. The blast wave threw them both to the ground. Heat washed over Jiwoo's back. Pieces of metal flew overhead, embedding themselves in trees. When Jiwoo dared to look back, the crash site was a crater of melted metal and burning debris. Nothing recognizable remained of the strange craft. The old man lay on the ground beside him, unconscious. Up close, Jiwoo could see more details that marked him as not quite human. The man's fingers were slightly too long. His ears came to subtle points. Fine silver patterns ran across his skin like circuit boards or tattoos, fading in and out as if powered by a dying battery. Jiwoo checked for a pulse and found one, though it beat in a strange rhythm, 2 quick beats followed by 1 slow one. The man was alive but needed help. Real help, medical help. But how could Jiwoo explain this at a hospital? The man was clearly not human. The crashed ship would bring police, military, maybe even government agents. Jiwoo thought of the orphanage, of being shuffled from place to place, always watched, never trusted. This stranger had already lost everything in the crash. Jiwoo couldn't let him be taken and locked away somewhere. The decision made itself. Jiwoo lifted the old man in a fireman's carry and started the long walk back to his bicycle. It took 3 tries to balance the stranger on the bike's handlebars, but eventually they managed an awkward arrangement. Jiwoo pedaled slowly through the darkness, every muscle burning, praying they wouldn't fall. His apartment was on the third floor of an old building with no elevator. Jiwoo had to stop 5 times to rest while carrying the stranger up the stairs. Neighbors' doors remained closed. No one cared what the orphan boy dragged home at night. Inside his tiny apartment, Jiwoo laid the old man on his only bed. The stranger's breathing was shallow but steady. The cut on his forehead had already stopped bleeding, and when Jiwoo carefully wiped away the blood, he saw the wound was closing on its own, skin knitting together like watching a video in fast forward. Jiwoo pulled out his cheap phone and called the only person he trusted. "Bora, it's me. I need your help." "No, I can't explain over the phone. Can you come to my place? And bring medical supplies from the university, please. I promise I'm not in trouble." "Well, not exactly." While waiting for Bora, Jiwoo cleaned the stranger's other wounds as best he could. The man's clothing was strange, made from material that felt like silk but looked like metal. When Jiwoo touched it, the fabric rippled with color. The old man's eyes fluttered open. They focused on Jiwoo with obvious effort. "Where?" The stranger spoke in a language Jiwoo had never heard, all musical tones and clicking sounds. Then the man tried again, this time in broken Korean. "Where is ship?" "Gone," Jiwoo said softly. "It exploded. I got you out first." The old man stared at him for a long moment. Something like surprise crossed his face, or maybe it was confusion. His 2 large black eyes studied Jiwoo as if trying to solve a puzzle. "You saved me," the stranger said in that halting Korean. "Why?" Jiwoo shrugged, suddenly embarrassed. "You needed help. You don't know me. I could be dangerous. You're hurt. That's all that matters right now." The old man's expression softened. He looked around at Jiwoo's apartment, taking in the single room with its peeling paint, the small refrigerator that hummed too loudly, the sleeping mat rolled in the corner, the few possessions of someone who owned almost nothing. "What is your name?" the stranger asked. "Jiwoo, what's yours?" The old man hesitated, then spoke carefully. "You may call me Talon." "Okay, Talon, my friend Bora is coming. She studies medicine. She'll help. You're safe here." Talon's eyes closed again. Just before he drifted back into unconsciousness, he whispered something in his own language. Jiwoo didn't understand the words, but he caught the tone clearly enough. Gratitude. Outside the window, sirens began to wail in the distance, heading toward the forest and the mysterious crash. Jiwoo closed the curtains and sat down on the floor to wait for Bora. He had no idea he had just saved the most powerful being in the galaxy. Bora arrived 20 minutes later with a backpack full of medical supplies. She took one look at Talon on the bed and froze in the doorway. "Jiwoo, what is that?" "He's a person who needs help," Jiwoo said firmly. "Can you examine him, please?" Bora approached the bed slowly, her medical training fighting against her shock. She pulled out a stethoscope and checked Talon's heartbeat, frowning at the strange rhythm. She examined the cuts that were already nearly healed. She looked into his eyes with a small flashlight and pulled back quickly. His pupils don't react normally to light. His heartbeat's wrong. His blood is the wrong color. "Jiwoo, this isn't a person. I mean, not a human person." "Where did you find him?" "The crash in the forest. His ship exploded." "Ship?" Bora sat down hard on the floor. "You're telling me you found an actual alien?" "I found someone who needed help," Jiwoo repeated. "That's all that matters." Bora stared at her childhood friend, then at the sleeping stranger, then back to Jiwoo. Finally, she sighed. "You haven't changed at all since we were kids. Always bringing home broken things. Remember that 3-legged dog? The bird with the damaged wing? Now you've graduated to aliens." Despite the tension, Jiwoo smiled. "Will you help?" "I'm already here, aren't I?" "But Jiwoo, this is serious. The military will be looking for him. The whole world will want to know about this. Then we don't tell them." "Not yet, let him heal first. Please, Bora." She looked at Talon's peaceful sleeping face. 1 week. That's all I can promise. After that, we need to figure out what to do." Over the next 7 days, Talon slowly recovered in Jiwoo's apartment. The alien's healing was remarkable. Wounds that should have taken weeks to heal closed in days. By the 3rd day, Talon could walk on his injured leg. By the 5th day, all visible injuries had vanished. Jiwoo continued working at Hwan's repair shop during the day, making excuses about why he looked so tired. He spent his wages on extra food for his guest. Talon seemed to survive on very little, but Jiwoo insisted on sharing everything he had. In the evenings, they talked. Talon's Korean improved rapidly, moving from broken phrases to full sentences. He explained he was a traveler from far away, studying other worlds and their people. He didn't mention empires or power. He asked questions about Earth, about humans, about Jiwoo's life. Jiwoo told him about the orphanage, about aging out of the system with nothing, about working hard to afford his tiny apartment and cheap food. He spoke without self-pity, just stating facts. This was his life, and he was doing his best with it. Talon listened to everything with intense focus. Sometimes Jiwoo caught the old alien watching him with an expression of wonder, as if Jiwoo was the strange and fascinating one. "Why do you work so hard?" Talon asked one evening while they shared a simple dinner of rice and kimchi. Jiwoo shrugged. "Everyone works. That's life. But you have so little, yet you gave half of it to me. A stranger. An alien, why? You needed help. I could help. It's not complicated." "In my experience," Talon said softly, "kindness is always complicated. There are always reasons, always calculations of benefit, but you expect nothing in return. What would I expect? You crashed here. You lost everything. I couldn't just leave you." Talon set down his chopsticks and looked at Jiwoo with those large, dark eyes. "Your people are remarkable," Jiwoo laughed. "Humans, we're okay, I guess. We have problems. Wars and pollution and inequality, but we're trying." "You have no idea how rare that is," Talon murmured. "How precious." On the 6th day, Jiwoo showed Talon how to use the television. The alien was fascinated by Korean dramas, laughing at the romantic misunderstandings and crying at the sad moments. Jiwoo found himself enjoying the shows more just by watching Talon experience them for the first time. Hwan stopped by unexpectedly that evening. The old repairman had been like a father to Jiwoo, giving him a job when no one else would hire an orphan with no experience. "You've been distracted at work," Hwan said, looking around the small apartment. His eyes landed on Talon. "Who's your friend?" "This is Talon. He's staying with me for a while." "Talon, this is my boss, Hwan." Talon stood and bowed politely in the Korean style. Hwan studied the stranger carefully, noting the too perfect posture, the slightly off proportions, the strange quality to his skin in certain light. "You're not from around here," Hwan said. It wasn't a question. "No," Talon admitted. "I am from very far away." Hwan nodded slowly. "The crash in the forest last week. That was you?" "Yes. And Jiwoo helped you. He saved my life." Hwan turned to Jiwoo. "Boy, do you know what you've gotten yourself into." "Someone needed help," Jiwoo said simply. Hwan sighed, then smiled. "Your parents would be proud. They were the same way, always helping others." He looked at Talon. "I don't know what you are or where you come from, but you should know that Jiwoo is a good person, one of the best I've met. If he helped you, you must have needed it." "I did," Talon said, "and I am grateful beyond words." After Hwan left, Talon seemed thoughtful. "He is family to you?" "The old man? Not by blood. But yes, in a way. He looks out for me." "You have built your own family from nothing," Talon observed. "Another remarkable thing." That night, Bora visited with troubling news. "The police are asking questions." Officer Myung came by the university, wanting to know if anyone had reported unusual injuries or patients. "People saw lights in the forest. There are rumors about the crash. In Jiwoo, there are strange cars parked around the city. Black vehicles with no license plates." "Who are they?" Jiwoo asked. "I don't know. But they're looking for something. Or someone." Talon stood by the window, carefully moving the curtain aside to look at the street below. "They are searching for me." "Who?" Jiwoo demanded. "Who's looking for you?" "It is complicated," Talon said evasively, then uncomplicated. "Are you in danger? Are we in danger?" Before Talon could answer, something small and silver on the table began to beep. It was a piece of debris from the crash that Talon had been carrying in his pocket. The alien picked it up and his face went pale. "What is that?" Bora asked. "A distress beacon," Talon whispered. "From my ship. I thought it was destroyed, but somehow it survived. And now it's transmitting." "Transmitting to who?" Jiwoo felt ice in his stomach. "To anyone who is listening. To those who want to help me." Talon's hand trembled. "And to those who want me dead." The small device blinked faster and faster, its beeping growing more urgent. Outside, the sound of cars pulling up to the building echoed in the night. Heavy footsteps thundered up the stairs. "We need to leave," Bora said urgently. "Now!" But before anyone could move, something else happened. The entire apartment shook. Not from below, but from above. A sound like thunder rolled across the sky, so deep it rattled Jiwoo's bones. All three of them rushed to the window and looked up. The stars were disappearing. Something massive was blocking them out, a shape so large it defied comprehension. Lights appeared on its surface, thousands of them, outlining a structure that stretched across the entire visible sky. "What is that?" Jiwoo breathed. Talon's face showed fear for the first time since the crash. A Dreadnought-class warship, one of only 12 in existence. He turned to Jiwoo and there was deep sorrow in his dark eyes. "I have lied to you, my friend. Not about gratitude, that was real, but about who I am, about why I crashed, about everything." The building shook again as something descended from the massive ship above. Bora grabbed Jiwoo's arm. "What's happening?" Talon walked to the center of the small apartment and stood straight, his casual demeanor falling away like a discarded coat. He suddenly looked different, powerful, carrying himself with the weight of authority. "My name is Talon," the alien said formally, "and I am the Emperor of the Galactic Imperium, ruler of 4,000 worlds and 73 billion souls. That ship above us came to retrieve me, but there is something you must know, Jiwoo. Something terrible. I was not fleeing an accident when I crashed on your world." "What were you fleeing?" Jiwoo asked, though part of him didn't want to know the answer. "Assassins," Talon said quietly. "My own people. Members of my government who believe I should be dead. And now that they have found me, your entire planet is in danger." The walls began to glow with strange light. A mechanical voice spoke in a language Jiwoo didn't understand. Talon looked at Jiwoo one last time, his expression full of regret. "I am sorry, my friend. You showed me kindness when I had nothing. You treated me like a person when you could have feared me. You gave me hope for your species. But now, because you helped me, you may have doomed your entire world." The apartment filled with light and everything changed. The light faded. Jiwoo's stomach lurched as if he'd just fallen from a great height. When his vision cleared, he was no longer in his apartment. He stood in a massive chamber made of dark metal and glowing crystal. The ceiling stretched so high above that it disappeared into shadow. Alien symbols covered the walls, pulsing with soft blue light. Through enormous windows, Jiwoo could see Earth below, beautiful and fragile against the black of space. Bora stood beside him, clutching his arm and breathing rapidly. Talon faced them both, looking more alien than ever in these surroundings. Behind the old emperor stood at least 50 figures in armor that seemed to be made of liquid silver. One of the armored figures stepped forward and removed his helmet. The alien inside looked similar to Talon but younger, with the same silvery skin and dark eyes. He dropped to one knee. "Emperor Talon," the soldier said in perfect Korean, clearly using some kind of translation technology. "We have searched for you for 8 days. The Imperium rejoices at your safety. I am Commander Kale, and I have brought the fleet to retrieve you." "Rise, Kale," Talon said wearily. "Though I fear your arrival may bring more problems than solutions." Jiwoo found his voice. "You're really an emperor? Of all this?" Talon turned to him, and the regret on his face was genuine. "Yes, I rule an empire of thousands of worlds. I have governed for 300 of your years, and I have made many enemies in that time." 300 years? Bora whispered. "How old are you?" "By your counting? Nearly 600 years. We age slowly, my people." Jiwoo felt like the floor was tilting beneath him. The kind old man he'd shared meals with, who'd cried at Korean dramas and learned to use chopsticks, was an emperor older than most human nations. It was too much to process. "Why were you on Earth?" Jiwoo asked. "Why were you running?" Talon gestured to the windows. "May I show you? It will be easier than explaining." The windows flickered and became screens showing images of space battles and burning planets. Talon's voice narrated quietly. 12 days ago, I attended a summit with my High Council. These are my advisors, the leaders of the Imperium's military and government. We were discussing policy regarding newly discovered civilizations. Worlds like yours, Jiwoo. Planets with intelligent life but limited technology. The screens showed images of different alien species, all at various levels of development. Some had primitive tools, some had early spacecraft. None were as advanced as Talon's people. I believe such worlds should be protected, Talon continued. Allowed to develop at their own pace, contacted only when they are ready. But others on my council disagree. They see young civilizations as resources to be exploited, worlds to conquer, people to enslave. The screens showed Talon arguing with other aliens in a grand council chamber. The debate grew heated. The argument became a confrontation, then an assassination attempt. The screens showed chaos, weapons firing, Talon fleeing through corridors while guards fought guards. Half my own security forces tried to kill me. I reached my personal ship and fled, but it was damaged. I made it to your solar system before the engines failed. And you crashed near my home, Jiwoo said softly. I crashed on a world I had sworn to protect. The irony was not lost on me. Talon smiled sadly. But then something unexpected happened. A young human, an orphan with nothing to his name, pulled me from the wreckage and shared his home. You asked for nothing, expected nothing. You just helped because you could. Commander Kale spoke up. The Emperor's disappearance threw the Imperium into chaos. The conspirators claimed he had fled in cowardice, that he was unfit to rule. They began seizing control of the fleet. We loyal forces have been searching desperately. How did you find him? Bora asked. The beacon from his ship finally activated, but we were not the only ones who detected it. As if summoned by those words, alarms began to blare throughout the ship. Red light flooded the chamber. Commander Kyle's face went hard. They're here, he said simply. The screens changed to show space outside the ship. Dozens of vessels were appearing, materializing from nowhere like sharks emerging from dark water. They were sleek and deadly, bristling with weapons. Admiral Wren's fleet, Talon said, his voice hollow. He leads the conspiracy. A military commander who believes peace makes us weak. One of the enemy ships was larger than the rest, a massive wedge of dark metal. Its weapons began to glow. They're targeting us, Kale reported.
And Emperor, they're also targeting the planet below. Jiwoo's blood turned to ice.
They're going to attack Earth? They need a justification for their rebellion, Talon explained, his voice tight with anger. If I died on a primitive world, they could claim the locals killed me. It would give them an excuse to subjugate your planet as punishment. They would tell the Imperium that Earth is too dangerous to be left alone. You can't let them do this, Jiwoo said urgently. There are billions of people down there. They don't even know any of this is happening.
I won't let it happen, Talon promised.
Kale, shields to maximum. Protect the planet at all costs. Yes, Emperor. But sir, we are outnumbered 3-1. Then we fight with what we have. The battle began. Jiwoo watched through the windows as impossible weapons tore through space. Beams of light that could slice continents in half. Missiles that bent reality around them. The two fleets collided in a dance of destruction that defied human comprehension. Talon's flagship shuddered under impacts. Kale shouted orders to his crew. Bora held on to Jiwoo. Both of them helpless witnesses to a war beyond their understanding. We can't win this, Kyle reported grimly. We're holding them back from Earth, but our shields are weakening. Admiral Wren is demanding you surrender, or he will destroy 3 Earth cities as a demonstration of power. Talon's hands clenched into fists. He wouldn't dare. The Council would never forgive such an act. The Council is fractured, my Emperor. Nearly half have sided with Wren. They believe your policies of protection and peace have made the Imperium weak. They want to return to the old ways of conquest. Jiwoo stepped forward. Let me talk to him. Everyone in the chamber turned to stare at him. What? Talon asked. This Admiral Wren. He's using Earth as leverage, right? He's threatening my world to get to you. Let me talk to him. Maybe I can make him understand. Jiwoo, he would not listen to it. Talon stopped himself, but the damage was done. To a primitive human? Jiwoo finished. Is that what you were going to say? Talon looked stricken. No, I meant he would not listen to reason from anyone. Wren is consumed by ambition and ideology. But I'm the reason you're here, Jiwoo insisted. I'm the human who saved you. Let me tell your empire what happened. Let me show them that Earth isn't a threat. That we're people who deserve protection, not conquest. Commander Kale shook his head. It's too dangerous. If Wren knows you helped the Emperor, he might try to use you as a hostage. I'm already in danger. My whole planet is in danger. At least let me try. Talon studied Jiwoo for a long moment. Then slowly he nodded. Very well. But you will broadcast to the entire Imperium, not just to Wren. Let all my people see what you are, what humanity is. Kyle looked unhappy but moved to obey. He led Jiwoo to a platform in the center of the chamber. Strange devices surrounded them, creating what looked like a column of light. This will transmit your image and voice to every world in the Imperium. Kale explained. Billions will see you. Speak from your heart, young human. It may be your only chance. Jiwoo stood in the column of light, his plain work clothes and simple appearance contrasting sharply with the advanced technology around him. He thought of his apartment, of Juan's repair shop, of the orphanage where he grew up. He thought of Earth, fragile and blue below them. Then he began to speak. My name is Jiwoo. I'm 19 years old. I fix machines for a living, and I live in a small apartment in Korea on Earth. 8 days ago, I saw something fall from the sky. When I found it, there was a ship crashed in the forest and an old man trapped inside. I didn't know he was an emperor. I didn't know he ruled an empire. I just knew he needed help. The chamber was absolutely silent except for Jiwoo's voice. I pulled him from the wreckage. I took him to my home. I gave him my bed and shared my food. Not because I expected a reward. Not because I wanted power or money. I did it because it was the right thing to do. Because he was hurt and I could help. Jiwoo looked directly at the devices transmitting his image. Emperor Talon stayed in my apartment for a week. He learned about humans, about Earth, about our cultures and our problems. I learned about him too. Not that he was an emperor, but that he was kind. That he cared about others. That he cried at sad stories and laughed at simple jokes. Now I learn that some of you want to hurt Earth because your emperor crashed here. You want to punish us for a kindness. You want to use his accident as an excuse to invade a world that never threatened you. But I'm standing here on this ship because I don't believe all of you are like that. Jiwoo's voice grew stronger. I believe most of you are like the emperor. People who value life and kindness. People who understand that being powerful doesn't mean you have to hurt those weaker than you. I'm just one human. My planet is primitive compared to yours. We have wars and problems and we make mistakes. But we're trying to be better. We're learning. We deserve the chance to grow, just like you must have once needed that chance. He took a breath. If you attack Earth, you won't be punishing us for harming your emperor. You'll be proving that kindness is weakness, that helping others is a mistake. You'll be teaching the universe that fear is stronger than compassion. Is that really what you believe? Is that the empire you want? Jiwoo fell silent. The transmission ended. The column of light faded. For a long moment, nobody spoke. Then Kale touched his ear, listening to something only he could hear. His eyes widened. Emperor, he said slowly. The enemy fleet is breaking formation. Ships are withdrawing. Admiral Ren is demanding they hold position. But they're not listening. The transmission? It's spreading across the entire Imperium. Everyone saw it. And they're responding. Talon moved to the window. Outside, the enemy ships were indeed pulling back. Some were simply stopping their attack. Others were breaking away entirely. The tide is turning, Talon murmured. One boy's words, speaking simple truth, may have just saved an empire from civil war. But before anyone could celebrate, one of the enemy ships broke formation and accelerated toward them. The massive vessel belonging to Admiral Ren himself, coming in for a final attack. He's going to ram us, Kale shouted. Brace for impact. The enemy ship grew larger in the windows, filling the view with dark metal and burning weapons. Jiwoo grabbed Bora as the flagship shuddered and alarms screamed. This wasn't over yet. Admiral Ren's ship filled the viewing screens, growing impossibly large as it hurtled toward them. Jiwoo could see weapons charging along its hull, each one capable of destroying cities. This was desperation. If Ren couldn't win the battle, he would at least take Talon down with him. Divert all power to forward shields, Commander Kale shouted. All hands brace for collision. But the collision never came. 3 ships from Ren's own fleet suddenly broke formation and positioned themselves between the Admiral's vessel and Talon's flagship. They opened fire on their own commander, their weapons tearing into Ren's shields. They're defending us, Kale said, his voice filled with wonder. Ren's own captains are turning against him. Through the viewing screens, Jiwoo watched as more and more ships from the conspiracy fleet ceased their attack. Some simply powered down weapons and drifted. Others actively moved to block Admiral Ren's vessel. The tide of battle had completely reversed. Talon stood at the window, his ancient eyes bright with unshed tears. They saw, he whispered. They heard Jiwoo's words and they remembered why we built this empire. Not for conquest. For protection. A transmission crackled through the chamber. The image that appeared showed an alien in military uniform, similar to Ren but with younger features and uncertain eyes. Emperor Talon, the alien officer said, his voice shaking. I am Captain Drem of the battlecruiser Infinite Sky. I served under Admiral Wren, believing we were protecting the Imperium from weak leadership. But I just watched a primitive human, a boy with nothing, speak about kindness and doing what's right. He showed more wisdom than my Admiral has in centuries. The captain's voice broke. I cannot follow Wren anymore. With your permission, I wish to return to my oath of loyalty. Permission granted, Captain Drem, Talon said gently. Welcome back. More transmissions came in. Dozens of captains from the conspiracy fleet, all requesting to stand down, all citing Jiwoo's broadcast as the reason they could no longer follow Admiral Wren's rebellion. But Wren himself refused to surrender. His ship continued its assault, weapons blazing even as his own fleet abandoned him. The massive vessel crashed through the defending ships, taking devastating damage but pushing forward with single-minded determination. He's targeting the planet, Kale reported grimly. Even with his ship crippled, he has enough firepower left to destroy a continent. He's aiming for Earth's largest population centers. Jiwoo felt his heart stop. Can you stop him? Not before he fires, Kale admitted. His weapons are already charging. We could destroy his ship, but the detonation would still rain debris on the planet below. Talon's face was carved from stone. How long until he can fire? 3 minutes, Emperor. Then we have 3 minutes to convince him to stop. Talon turned to Jiwoo. May I try something? It may not work, but I must attempt it. What? Let me speak to Wren. Not as an emperor, but as the person you helped. Let me show him what I learned from you. Talon opened a direct channel to Admiral Wren's ship. The image that appeared showed an alien officer in badly damaged armor, standing on a bridge filled with smoke and sparking equipment. Wren's face was twisted with hatred and fanaticism. Talon, the Admiral spat. Still hiding behind primitives? You have weakened our great empire with your softness. Your protection policies have made us stagnant. We should be expanding, conquering, claiming our rightful place as masters of the galaxy. Wren, please listen. No. I listened to you for decades, and what has it brought us? We waste resources protecting inferior species who will never equal us. We turn away from worlds ripe for harvesting because you believe in their potential. You are not fit to rule. Talon was quiet for a moment. When he spoke, his voice was calm but filled with iron certainty. You're right about one thing, Wren. I did change. 8 days ago, I would have tried to reason with you using logic and political philosophy. I would have debated the merits of our policies. But something happened to me on Earth. Talon gestured to Jiwoo. This boy, this human you consider primitive and worthless, saved my life. He had every reason not to. He is poor, struggling to survive. Helping me put him at risk. He gained nothing from it, but he did it anyway because it was right. Sentimentality, Wren sneered. Exactly the weakness I speak of. No, Talon said firmly. Strength. The strength to help others when it costs you something. The strength to be kind even when kindness is difficult. Jiwoo showed me that true power isn't about domination or control. It's about choosing to uplift others instead of crushing them. Pretty words won't stop me from cleansing that primitive world. Then let me ask you something, Admiral. When did you last help someone who couldn't help you back? When did you last show mercy to something weaker than yourself? When did you last do something simply because it was the right thing to do? Wren's face flickered with something that might have been doubt, but it hardened again quickly. I serve the Imperium. That is all the purpose I need. You serve your own ambition, Talon said sadly, and that is why you will lose. My fleet didn't abandon me, Wren. Yours abandoned you. Your own captains heard a human boy speak truth and recognized it instantly. Do you know why? Because deep down, all thinking beings understand the value of compassion. Even your soldiers know that strength without kindness is just cruelty. Enough philosophy, Wren shouted. My weapons are charged. In 60 seconds I will fire on Earth. Then we'll see if your compassion can stop planetary extinction. The transmission cut off. Talon's shoulders sagged. I'm sorry, Jiwoo. I tried. Jiwoo stared at the countdown timer Kale had displayed. 50 seconds, 45. His world was about to die and there was nothing he could do. Then Bo-Ra grabbed his arm. Wait, we're on a ship with faster-than-light travel. Can we evacuate people? Even some people? Kale shook his head. Not in 40 seconds. We could maybe transport a few dozen individuals, but millions will die. Then we fight, Jiwoo said firmly. We destroy his ship. Even if the debris falls, at least we tried. The debris alone would kill millions, Kale warned. and his weapons will kill billions. We have to try. Talon looked at Jiwoo, this young human ready to accept the lesser tragedy to save as many as possible. The Emperor straightened his shoulders. Kyle, prepare to fire all weapons. Target Admiral Ren's ship. Yes, Emperor. The countdown continued. 30 seconds, 25. Then something unexpected happened. A new ship appeared between Ren's vessel and Earth. Not from Talon's fleet or from the conspiracy. The ship was smaller, sleeker, with markings Jiwoo didn't recognize. Who is that? Talon demanded. The new ship opened fire, not at Ren or at the flagship, but at something in the space between them. The weapons hit nothing Jiwoo could see, but ripples of energy spread outward like waves in water. They're creating a dampening field, Kale said, amazement in his voice. It's blocking Ren's weapons from charging further. The timer stopped at 15 seconds. A transmission came from the new ship. The alien who appeared on screen looked nothing like Talon's species. This being was tall and thin, with blue skin and 4 arms, wearing robes marked with symbols of authority. Emperor Talon, the alien said in a melodic voice. I am Ambassador Sira of the Kothai Republic. We have been monitoring this situation. The humans' broadcast reached our space as well. His words moved the Kothai Council. We could not stand by and watch such a species be destroyed for showing kindness. The Kothai Republic? Talon breathed. But we have no formal alliance. Our peoples are barely on speaking terms. That may change, Ambassador Sira said. We saw what the human did for you. We heard what he said to your empire. If a primitive species can show such wisdom, perhaps we advanced civilizations have something to learn. Consider this intervention a first step toward better relations. More ships appeared. Different species, different designs. Some Jiwoo recognized from Talon's earlier explanation of protected worlds. Others were completely alien. The Garani Federation stands with Earth, announced a captain with scales and 3 eyes. The Helix Collective offers assistance, said another, this one appearing to be made of living crystal. The wandering clans will defend this world, declared a gruff voice from a battered freighter. Jiwoo watched in stunned silence as dozens of ships from different civilizations, some enemies of each other, all gathered to protect Earth. His broadcast hadn't just reached Talon's empire. It had spread across multiple star nations, touching hearts and minds across the galaxy. Admiral Ren's ship sat dead in space, surrounded by vessels from a dozen different species, all united in protecting the small blue world below. A final transmission came from Ren's damaged bridge. The Admiral looked defeated. His fanaticism crumbled into despair. I don't understand, Ren said quietly. I was trying to make us strong. Strength without wisdom is weakness, Talon said gently. Ren, surrender. Face trial. Perhaps in time you will understand what Jiwoo showed me. That true power comes from lifting others up, not pushing them down. For a long moment Ren said nothing. Then slowly he removed his command insignia and set it down. I surrender. The conspiracy is over. Kyle immediately dispatched security forces to secure Ren's ship. The Admiral and his remaining loyal officers were taken into custody without resistance. As the immediate crisis passed, Jiwoo felt his legs go weak. Bora caught him, and they sank to the floor together, laughing with relief and shock. We're alive, Bora said. Earth is alive. Because of him, Talon said, looking down at Jiwoo with profound respect. Because one orphan boy chose kindness over fear. Jiwoo, you didn't just save my life. You may have just changed the entire galaxy. Through the window, Earth turned peacefully below, unaware of how close it had come to destruction. Ships from across the stars surrounded it now, not as invaders, but as protectors. And somewhere on that blue world, life continued as normal. People went to work. Children played. Families shared meals. They didn't know that a 19-year-old repair shop worker had just become the most important human in galactic history. But they would learn soon enough. The flagship's medical bay was quiet except for the soft hum of alien technology. Jiwoo sat on an examination table while a medical officer checked him over, making sure the stress of the battle hadn't harmed him. Bora stood nearby, asking the alien doctor countless questions about their medical technology with the enthusiasm of a student finding a new library. Talon entered the medical bay, looking tired but relieved. The Emperor had spent the last several hours coordinating with his fleet, securing the conspiracy leaders, and beginning the long process of healing his fractured government. "How are you feeling?" Talon asked Jiwoo. Confused, overwhelmed, a little hungry. Jiwoo smiled weakly. "Is it really over?" "The immediate crisis, yes. Admiral Ren and his closest supporters are in custody. The captains who surrendered are being evaluated. Most of them will face consequences, but not execution. They were misguided, not evil." Talon sat down on the examination table beside Jiwoo. "The broadcast you made has spread across dozens of civilizations. You've become quite famous, and I don't want to be famous. I just want to go home." "About that," Talon said carefully. "Earth is currently surrounded by warships from multiple star nations, all arguing about who has the right to establish first contact. Your governments are in emergency sessions trying to understand what happened, and millions of people saw the ships in orbit. Your world knows it's not alone in the universe anymore." Jiwoo groaned. "I really messed things up, didn't I?" "No," Talon said firmly. "You saved everything, but there are consequences to saving the galaxy. Your life has changed, Jiwoo. You can never go back to being anonymous." "What do you mean?" Talon stood and walked to the window. Earth hung below them, beautiful and fragile. "The Galactic Imperium owes you a debt we can never fully repay. You saved their emperor and helped end a civil war. The other species who came to defend Earth did so because of your words. You have become a symbol, Jiwoo. A bridge between humanity and the wider galaxy. I just want to fix machines and live quietly." "I know, but the universe has other plans." Talon turned back to face him. "I must return to the Imperial capital and address the full council. The conspiracy went deeper than just Admiral Ren. I need to root out corruption and rebuild trust in the government. It will take months, perhaps years, so you're leaving." "I must, but I wanted to ask you something first." Talon moved closer, his ancient eyes serious. "Come with me, Jiwoo. Serve as Earth's ambassador to the Galactic Imperium. Your voice has power now. Use it to protect your world and guide first contact between humanity and the stars." Jiwoo stared at him. "Me, an ambassador? Talon, I barely finished school. I've never been outside of Korea before this. I don't know anything about politics or diplomacy." "You know the most important thing," Talon said gently. "You know how to be kind even when it's difficult. You know how to help others even when it costs you something. Those qualities are worth more than any education or experience. And Earth needs someone who understands both humans and aliens. Someone I trust. Someone the galaxy already respects. Can I think about it?" "Of course. Take all the time you need." But before Jiwoo could think further, alarms blared through the ship. Commander Kale's voice echoed over the communication system. "Emperor to the bridge. We have a situation." Talon and Jiwoo ran through the corridors of the massive ship, Bora following close behind. They burst onto the bridge to find controlled chaos. Officers shouted reports while screens showed Earth's surface. "What's happening?" Talon demanded. Kale pointed to one of the main displays. "Earth's governments have made a decision. They're broadcasting a message to all ships in orbit. But Emperor, you need to hear what they're saying." The screen showed a conference room on Earth. Representatives from dozens of countries sat around a table. One of them, a woman in a formal suit, spoke to the camera. "We are the United Nations of Earth," she said in English with subtitles appearing in multiple languages. "We acknowledge the presence of extraterrestrial vessels in our orbit. We understand that first contact has occurred, and we have a message for all civilizations watching." The woman paused, her expression serious but unafraid. "We have learned that a citizen of Earth, a young man named Jiwoo, saved the life of Emperor Talon and spoke on behalf of our world. We did not authorize him to represent Earth. But after reviewing the recordings of his actions and his words, we believe he represented the best of humanity. His compassion, his courage, and his wisdom in crisis showed the galaxy who we aspire to be." The camera panned across the representatives from different nations, all nodding in agreement. "Therefore, we officially recognize Jiwoo as Earth's first ambassador to the stars. We grant him the authority to negotiate on our behalf and to represent humanity in galactic affairs. We trust that the same qualities that saved an emperor will guide him in protecting our world." The broadcast ended. Jiwoo stood frozen, barely able to process what he'd just heard. "Well," Bora said, a smile playing at her lips, "I guess that answers your question about whether to take the job." Talon looked at Jiwoo with understanding and sympathy. "The universe moves fast sometimes. I'm sorry you didn't get more time to decide." Jiwoo took a deep breath. He thought about his small apartment, his job at the repair shop, his quiet life. All of that was gone now, whether he accepted the position or not. His broadcast had changed everything. He could either run from the consequences or embrace them. Okay, Jiwoo said finally. I'll do it. I'll be Earth's ambassador, but I need help. I need advisors, people who know about politics and history and diplomacy. You'll have everything you need, Talon promised. The Imperium will provide resources, education, support, and I will personally teach you about galactic politics. You won't face this alone. Over the next few days, preparations began. Talon's fleet established a formal first contact protocol with Earth. A neutral space station would be built in Earth's orbit where humans could meet with alien diplomats safely. Technology sharing agreements were drafted, carefully designed to help humanity develop without overwhelming their society. Jiwoo was allowed to return to Earth one last time before departing for the Imperial capital. He said goodbye to Hwan, who hugged him tightly and told him to make his parents proud. He visited the orphanage where he grew up and donated enough money to ensure every child there would have opportunities he never had. Bora decided to join him as Earth's first alien medicine specialist. Someone needs to keep you from doing something stupid, she said with a grin. Plus, I need to learn everything about alien biology. This is literally my dream come true. On his last night on Earth, Jiwoo stood in his small apartment one final time. The bed where Talon had recovered. The table where they'd shared meals. The window where they'd looked out at a world that seemed so simple then. A knock came at the door. Jiwoo opened it to find a young woman, maybe 14 years old, with nervous eyes and clutching a backpack. Are you Jiwoo? She asked shyly. Yes, can I help you? I'm Da-eun. I'm from the orphanage. Mr. Hwan told me you were leaving tomorrow and I wanted to thank you for the donation. Because of you, I can afford to go to university next year. Jiwoo smiled. I'm glad. What do you want to study? Engineering. I want to design things, build things, make things better. Don hesitated, then continued. The older kids at the orphanage told me you used to be like us. No parents, no money, nothing but yourself. But you still helped someone who needed it, and now you're going to the stars. Yeah, it's still hard to believe. Can I ask you something? How did you know it was the right thing to do? Helping the alien, I mean. Weren't you scared? Jiwoo thought about that night in the forest, pulling Talon from the wreckage. I was terrified, but someone needed help and I could help them. That's all that mattered. Fear doesn't change what's right. Da-eun nodded slowly as if memorizing his words. I'll remember that. When I'm scared, when things are hard, I'll remember that someone like me became an ambassador to aliens because he chose to be kind. Thank you, Jiwoo. After Da-eun left, Jiwoo stood at the window one last time. Tomorrow he would board Talon's flagship and leave Earth for the first time. He would travel to worlds he couldn't imagine, meet beings beyond his understanding, and represent his entire species in matters of galactic importance. It was terrifying. It was overwhelming. But it was right. The next morning, Jiwoo stood on a platform at the United Nations building in New York. Representatives from every nation on Earth had gathered to see him off. Cameras broadcast the ceremony to billions of people watching around the world. Talon stood beside him, dressed in formal imperial robes that made him look even more alien and regal. Commander Kale waited nearby with an honor guard. Bora stood with the human delegation, already deep in conversation with alien medical officers about comparative anatomy. The Secretary General of the United Nations stepped forward and presented Jiwoo with a simple blue flag bearing Earth's image. This flag represents all of humanity, she said. Our hopes, our dreams, our potential. Carry it with pride, Ambassador Jiwoo. Show the galaxy who we are. Jiwoo accepted the flag, feeling its weight in his hands. Such a simple piece of cloth, but it meant everything. He turned to address the assembled crowd, knowing his words would reach every corner of his world. 8 days ago, I was nobody. An orphan working at a repair shop, just trying to survive. I had nothing special about me. I wasn't smart or powerful or important. I was just a person trying to do his best. Jiwoo looked out at the faces watching him, seeing himself reflected in their hopes and fears. Then I met someone who needed help, and I made a choice. I chose to be kind, even though it was difficult. I chose to help, even though I was scared, and that simple choice changed everything. He held up the flag. I'm not special. I'm not a hero. I'm just a human who tried to do the right thing. And if I can make a difference, then any of you can too. Every choice we make, every act of kindness, every moment we choose to help instead of turning away, those choices matter. They ripple out into the universe in ways we can't predict. Jiwoo's voice grew stronger. So as I leave Earth to represent you all, I want you to know something. You don't need to wait for aliens to arrive to make a difference. You can choose kindness today. You can help someone who needs it. You can make your world better right now, with nothing but your own decision to care. He smiled. The galaxy is watching us. Not because we have advanced technology or powerful weapons. They're watching because they saw what humans can be when we choose compassion over fear. Let's show them they were right to give us a chance. Let's show them that Earth deserves its place among the stars. The crowd erupted in cheers. Jiwoo felt tears on his cheeks but didn't wipe them away. This was it. The end of his old life and the beginning of something impossible. Talon placed a hand on his shoulder. Ready? No, Jiwoo admitted. But I'm going anyway. Light surrounded them as the transport beam activated. Earth fell away below, growing smaller and smaller until it was just one blue marble among countless stars. The flagship's teleportation chamber materialized around them. Officers saluted. Alien diplomats waited to be introduced. 1,000 tasks and responsibilities loomed ahead. But Talon walked beside him and Bo-Ra was nearby. And somewhere on the ship, Earth's flag would fly alongside the banner of the Galactic Imperium. Ambassador Jiwoo, Kale said formally. Your quarters are prepared. We depart for the Imperial capital in 1 hour. Do you have any requests before we leave Earth's orbit? Jiwoo thought of his apartment, his bicycle, the simple life he was leaving behind. Then he thought of Daun and all the other orphans who would look up at the stars and see possibility, instead of emptiness. Just one request, Jiwoo said. Make sure Earth stays protected. No invasions, no forced technology sharing, no interference. Let humanity grow at its own pace. Already done, Talon assured him. Earth has been granted Class A Protectorate status, the highest level of protection in the Imperium. No civilization may interfere with your world without explicit permission from Earth's government. And I'm recommending similar protections from the other species who came to your defense. Thank you. Thank you, Jiwoo, Talon said seriously. You gave an old emperor hope when he had none. You showed a divided empire that compassion is strength. You proved that even the smallest person can change the galaxy. I will spend the rest of my very long life trying to live up to the example you set. The flagship began to move, leaving Earth's orbit and heading out into the vast darkness of space. Through the windows, Jiwoo watched his homeworld fall away, a beautiful blue sphere growing smaller with each passing moment. He pressed his hand against the window glass, making a silent promise. He would make Earth proud. He would be the bridge between humanity and the stars. He would prove that kindness and compassion were worth more than all the advanced technology in the universe. Somewhere on Earth, life continued. People went to work. Children played. Families shared meals. They looked up at the stars and knew for the first time that they were not alone. And somewhere in space, a young orphan who once had nothing carried the hopes of his entire species into the unknown. The galaxy would never be the same. Neither would he. But that was okay. Change was scary, but it was also beautiful. And Jiwoo had learned that the best things in life came from choosing to help others, even when it was hard. Especially when it was hard. The stars stretched out before him, infinite and full of possibility. Jiwoo smiled and turned away from the window. There was work to do, people to meet, a galaxy to explore. His journey was just beginning, and it had all started with one simple choice: to pull a stranger from a crashed ship and offer him a place to heal. Sometimes the smallest acts of kindness can save entire worlds. Sometimes they can save empires. And sometimes they can change the course of history for every living being in the galaxy. Jiwoo walked forward into his new life, carrying Earth's flag and the hope of humanity. The universe was waiting.